When it comes to Black Ops Cold War, or more specifically, the integration with Black Ops Cold War in Warzone, there's a few things that stand out that aren't exactly what they seem. Some items or attachments in this case that may seem to be the best for your loadouts, but actually aren't, and instead are outclassed by other items that may not be your first choice. Whether that be because of hidden benefits or some things you just may not consider, that are going to run down a couple of attachments that are the wrong ones you're using and what you should be using in place of that. So as we go along, let me know your thoughts down below. What do you guys think of Warzone's integration so far with Black Ops Cold War? I mean, we talked about yesterday the meta that we have right now, not being my particular favorite, but is there anything that you guys particularly enjoy? Maybe not so much. Feel free to let me know your thoughts. As well, if you are new to the channel, do be sure that subscribe button. We're on the road to 400,000 subscribers, and we'll keep you up to date with all things Black Ops Cold War, Warzone, and anything COD related. So if you'd like to join the community, I'd love to have you. But instead, let's talk about these attachments. Firstly, to preface, a lot of the information that we'll be discussing here has stemmed from some of the brilliant minds in the community, some of their information even helping fine-tune some of my own game greatly. But people like JGod, True Game Data, Exclusive Ace, and others, I'll leave their channel links down there below if you're more into the analytical-driven content. They're the best in the biz. But the first attachment that I want to talk about here comes down to the barrels, and in the case of the current given meta, one that you'll see a lot of discussion about is the DMR. Now, when you look at Cold War to Modern Warfare attachment attributes, there's a few things that are glaring differences. Cold War weapons offer things like flinch resistance, the ability to go prone while aiming, which is something naturally in Modern Warfare, and even so much as damage adjustments on some attachments. Now, naturally, when you look at damage, you think to yourself, okay, I need to equip this, and I was the exact same way. Damage is huge, especially when trying to crack through armor and shred through enemies' base HP as well. But here's the thing, for the DMR and a few other weapons, the damage profiles are more than adequate as is, if not still top tier without that damage modifier. So you could be sacrificing other attributes for arbitrary modifiers. So while you may be choosing things like the Task Force or Strike Team barrels, I'm there with you, and it makes perfectly logical sense that that is something you'd want to use with a Cold War weaponry, especially given the fact that Cold War weaponry has very linear attributes and unlocks, meaning that for the most part, the best attachments are the ones that are unlocked the latest. But I'd say consider using the Titanium barrel, an attachment with hidden modifiers, instead of, say, the Strike Team or Task Force. On the surface, the Titanium barrel ends up simply adjusting the fire rate of the weapon for a trade-off in effective damage range. But in reality, you actually gain better bullet velocity than the Task Force barrel when comparing them side by side, even though the Task Force barrel ends up promoting better bullet velocity in the in-game notes for what it can do with the weapon. And that in with the fact that you can get a better fire rate off of that, you have a sleeper of an attachment that takes this weapon and others that are already incredibly dangerous, and you take it to an entirely different level with just that one simple adjustment in the attachment used. Another super meta attachment to consider when you look at the current state of the game, the Diamati's are ridiculous, and this is perhaps the best example we can give when taking a look at these laser attachments and comparing them side by side, because you're likely using the Diamati's for the purpose of the meta, being hipfire and dual wielding. When you take a look at the laser attachments, a lot of them for Cold War weaponry offer hipfire accuracy bonuses, while others offer reveal distance, and some offering both. Now, as mentioned, the Cold War attachments are often pretty linear, right? So by that logical thought, we'd end up gravitating more so towards that Ember sighting point. Now, there's absolutely nothing wrong with the Ember sighting point, especially because you do gain both hipfire adjustments and reveal distance increases, so it's a solid choice. But if you're going for hipfire solely, and in the case of dual wield pistols you are, it's actually not the best choice. While it is mentioned as the sole adjustment in what is afforded to the attachment, the SWAT 5mW laser is actually the better option here for hipfire spread with the bullet placement, even though in-game crosshairs aren't much different, so it's a bit deceiving. Now, can you go wrong with either? Not really, but if you want the tightest spread for your hipfire, the 5mW edges out the Ember sighting point, but if you want to use that for, say, a rifle or some kind of reveal distance and the added benefit of a tighter spread, it's not a bad move either way, but still definitely consider using that 5mW. One attachment if you're somebody that likes to use optics, well, actually a couple of attachments that you may want to consider if you use optics are the 2x and the 3x scopes. Now, as my good friend JGod pointed out, it's not something that is entirely conclusive. It doesn't seem like it's across the board and definitive that it changes up your recoil patterns a whole ton, but the 2x and the 3x optics on Cold War weaponry within Warzone do seem to offer a little bit of benefit in terms of recoil mitigation. Is it quite to the point of the VLK 3x optic that we saw as one of the main meta attachments within Warzone this past year with Modern Warfare? Not quite, but it is something that does seem to, again, for some reason, bring down that recoil as an added bonus that isn't quite listed within the optic selection and description for the attachment. It seems to bring it down just ever so slightly. So if you do want to try out something you like to use an optic, maybe consider switching to it 2 times or 3 times for a little bit and see how you like it, and maybe your shot will become a little bit sharper as well. Next up, we're going to talk about attachments in terms of the grips, because a lot of the grips within Cold War weaponry have some attributes that are definitely worthwhile, and for a lot of the cases, if you're like me, you want that gun up as fast as possible. Sprint to fire time is nice, but having that ability to get that aim down sight time as quick as possible is definitely something that really helps out your gunplay. But whenever you take a look at it, this does follow more so in line with the linear attachment unlocks we've talked about, where if you do have the ability to rank up a weapon fully, which I'd highly recommend, the airborne elastic wraps and the GRU elastic wraps are definitely the way to go here for your weaponry. Now, while you'll be sacrificing some shooting move speed and a little bit in that sprint to fire time, you make up greatly for it with what you actually add in the benefits. You of course get that aim down sight increase here, in which it's a little bit quicker as you would with, say, your serpent wraps, your jungle grips, and your speed tapes, but you also end up gaining 2 very important things, especially within Warzone, of flinch resistance and the ability to aim while going prone. Now, drop shotting may not be as big a thing as you see as, say, jump shotting within Warzone, but you do still see it, and again, with modern warfare weaponry, that is something that is normally a basic function that you can do as is. But to be able to do that and compare with Cold War weaponry definitely is an added benefit, but the big thing is the flinch resistance. You end up, just by simply having this on as opposed to other speed grips, the ability to not see as much flinch when you're getting shot at, giving you that added stability in gunfights, which can be absolutely crucial in winning those. Normally, I'll go back and forth on some loadouts depending on the weapon between an underbarrel and a rear grip, so having this ability to switch to a rear grip that gives that much of a benefit is definitely something I would recommend. Now, the final attachments we'll be talking about here today is one that I would hope everybody ends up using, that being the agency or the GRU suppressors. Now, this muzzle attachment was something that at the very beginning of Warzone's integration didn't actually have everything that the counterpart for Modern Warfare had in terms of the monolithic suppressor. But after an update, it was something that added this benefit to it, but you not only get that sound suppression, but you also get an increase to that damage range as well, meaning your effective damage range, that max damage you can end up doing, and then the other tiers of damage drop-offs, they extend out just a little further. And when you're playing something like Warzone, where the majority of those engagements are coming likely at a distance, either in a field, spanning across multiple buildings, whatever the case may be, you're going to need that extra damage range to inflict as much damage as possible on your enemies. Now, does this help you out in CQB engagements if you're, say, in a stairwell with somebody? No, not particularly, but again, the majority of your engagements are likely not going to be happening in staircases. So while things like your muzzle brakes, your flash guards, your regular silencers, your compensators, and SOCOM eliminators are still great in some other attributes, if you're looking for a muzzle attachment at all, definitely take the agency silencer, because you of course extend that damage range, but you also play one of the biggest things in a battle royale as well, increasing that stealth factor with a suppressor, not showing up on the minimap, not showing up on those peripherals that enemies may have, so you'll be able to take them out with a little bit more ease as well. The element of surprise on your side. But overall, that's where we're at here at this, and that's a handful of attachments that you definitely should be using, even though some of them may not be the most obvious choices here at this. Maybe adding some smaller benefits that you may not be aware of, but can absolutely change your game for Warzone. So that's where we're going to wrap it up. I'd love to get your thoughts and feedback down there in the comment section down below. What do you guys think of this here? Are you looking forward to maybe seeing some more stuff that comes out in the coming days to weeks about maybe more unmentioned changes and adjustments to your loadout that each attachment affords? You're looking forward to more loadout setups, whatever it is, let me know your thoughts. But hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, make sure you drop a like down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure you guys subscribe so you don't miss a single thing regarding all things Black Ops, Cold War, Warzone, and all things COD related. If you're interested in any of that, hit that subscribe button. We'll keep it updated with all of it. If you also want to follow me over on Twitter and Instagram, those are the best places to get connected outside of YouTube. I live on both those. So if you guys want to strike up a conversation, ask me a question, whatever it may be, that link is down there in the description below. But other than that, I thank you guys all so much for watching. Mine has been Espresso. I'll see you guys later. Take care and peace.